You wake before dawn, your body heavy with the fatigue of yesterday's labor, yet you rise. You pour coffee into a chipped mug, pull on worn boots, and step into the cold morning air. The world is still asleep, but you are already in motion. For years, this has been your rhythm. Show up first, leave last, say yes when others refuse, sacrifice weekends, skip vacations, push through pain. You were told this is the path to success. That relentless effort would be recognized, rewarded, celebrated. But deep down, you feel the dissonance. The promotion that went to the CEO's nephew instead of you. The colleague who schmoozed their way up the ladder despite half-hearted work. The influencer on your phone flaunting wealth earned not by curing diseases or building bridges, but by selling the idea of success. You've begun to ask, if hard work is the key, why am I still locked out? The answer lies in a myth so deeply ingrained it feels like truth. From childhood, you were handed a script: be good, follow rules, work hard, wait your turn. This script was reinforced in schoolrooms, sports teams, and family dinners. Teachers praised your diligence, parents beamed at your compliance, and society promised that virtue would be repaid. But this narrative wasn't crafted for you. It was designed to sustain a system that thrives on your obedience. Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century philosopher who dissected morality like a surgeon, called this slave morality, a belief system born not from strength, but from the powerless. Those who cannot dominate the game rewrite the rules, declaring that humility, sacrifice, and silent endurance are the highest virtues. But these virtues, Nietzsche warned, are traps. They keep you docile, dependent, and endlessly waiting for a reward that never arrives. Consider the construction worker, dangling from scaffolding 50 stories above the city. His hands are calloused, his spine curved from decades of lifting. He builds monuments to progress, yet he cannot afford the dentist. Contrast him with the venture capitalist, sipping espresso in a high-rise, moving millions through a phone call. He doesn't pour concrete or heal the sick. He manipulates abstractions, stocks, algorithms, market trends. His value isn't tied to effort, but to leverage. The system doesn't reward sweat. It rewards control. A nurse can save 10 lives in a shift, but her paycheck is a fraction of a hedge fund manager's hourly gains. Why? Because her labor, though essential, is replaceable. The system thrives on scarcity. Physical labor is abundant, but control over capital, networks, and narratives is scarce. And scarcity dictates value. This isn't an accident, it's by design. For centuries, those in power have shaped morality to serve their interests. Medieval serfs were taught piety would earn them heaven. Factory workers in the Industrial Revolution were told loyalty would bring security. Today, the script has simply evolved. Hustle culture glorifies burnout as a badge of honor, while corporate mission statements preach family and purpose to mask profit-driven motives. The result? You grind harder, clinging to the hope that your suffering will one day be redeemed. But the truth is, the system depends on your belief in this lie. If you realized earlier that your loyalty earns dividends only for others, you might revolt. So the myth persists, soothing you with the promise of someday. Nietzsche's critique cuts deeper. He divides morality into two frameworks: master morality and slave morality. Master morality, born of strength, celebrates ambition, creativity, and self-determination. It's the ethic of conquerors, inventors, and those who shape the world on their terms. Slave morality, however, emerges from resignation. When the powerless cannot change their circumstances, they sanctify their weakness. Humility is noble, they declare. Obedience is righteous. Suffering is sacred. This inversion allows them to endure oppression without confronting it, but it also chains them to a cycle of exploitation. The virtuous worker who never complains, never demands, never questions becomes the perfect cog in the machine, praised for their integrity while being quietly drained. The modern workplace is a temple to slave morality. Consider the teacher buying school supplies with her own money, the overtime-exempt employee answering emails at midnight, the gig worker racing against an algorithm's clock. They're lauded as heroes, their exploitation reframed as nobility. Meanwhile, those who play the power game, lobbyists, executives, entrepreneurs, operate by a different code. They negotiate bonuses, delegate tasks, and prioritize profit over team spirit. Society may critique their ruthlessness, but the system rewards them. This duality is stark. One group is paid in praise, the other in power. Why does this hierarchy endure? Because scalability determines worth in a capitalist system. A factory worker can only assemble so many widgets in an hour. Their labor is linear, bound by time and physical limits. But a software engineer who creates an app, their work can reach millions with near marginal cost. A CEO's decision can shift billions across continents in seconds. The system isn't evil, it's indifferent. It rewards what scales, and scalability favors abstraction over physicality, leverage over labor. This is why education and social class are pivotal. Those born into networks of influence learn to manipulate systems, while others are funneled into roles where effort and outcome are decoupled. The psychological grip of the just world fallacy tightens the chains. We're taught to believe life is fair, that goodness begets reward and vice invites punishment. This lie is seductive. It lets us endure hardship by imagining a cosmic balance sheet. But in reality, the game is rigged. For every underpaid caregiver, there's a corrupt banker evading consequences. For every diligent student drowning in debt, there's a trust fund heir skipping prerequisites. So fallacy isn't just false, it's gaslighting. It convinces the oppressed that their plight is a moral failing, not a systemic feature. So where does this leave you? Stuck between the myth you've lived by and the reality you're awakening to. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. If I stop grinding, will I fail? If I play the power game, will I lose myself? Nietzsche's answer is radical. Reject the morality of weakness. This doesn't mean becoming a monster. It means refusing to let your worth be defined by a system that profits from your submission. It means seeing the game for what it is and choosing to play it differently. But how? The first step is to dissect the stories you've been sold. When you're praised for dedication, ask, who benefits from my unpaid overtime? When you're told to be patient, question, who gains from my silence? Recognize that your virtue has been weaponized. The good employee who never negotiates a raise, the selfless parent who postpones their dreams. These identities keep you manageable. Meanwhile, the powerful abandon these rules. They lobby for tax breaks, offshore labor, and write laws to protect their wealth. They understand that morality is malleable, a tool to consolidate control. This realization is terrifying. It shatters the comfort of predictability, but it's also liberating. You're no longer a prisoner of dogma. You're a player who sees the board. The path forward isn't about discarding ethics. It's about aligning them with agency. It's about building strength that serves you, not just the system. The awakening is brutal. Once you see societal illusions, plaques, promotions, retirement trinkets, you can't unsee them. This isn't cynicism, but empowerment. Shedding borrowed values to embrace strength rooted in clarity, not compliance. Like the nurse launching a training platform instead of waiting for validation, or the construction worker trading boots for blueprints. True power lies in redefining rules as negotiations, not dismantle the myth that suffering equals virtue. The teacher praised as a hero while exploited as noble in silence. Her value amplifies when she unionizes or monetizes her expertise. Strategic strength means redirecting energy from enduring to creating. Scarcity, the fear that success is finite, is a lie. Abundance thrives when you stop competing for scraps and build new markets. The artist selling directly online or the engineer creating open source tools expands the pie, embodying Nietzsche's Übermensch, seeing the world as a laboratory, not a battlefield. Prioritize leverage over labor. The chef licensing recipes instead of grinding in a kitchen multiplies impact Audit tasks, automate, delegate, eliminate. Productivity is in motion, its outcomes. Build networks as ecosystems, not ladders. The developer sharing free code builds trust that later fuels her startup. Relationships are mutual growth, not transactions. Master narrative. Frame your story as autonomy, not duties. Culinary innovator reducing waste by 40%. Beats. Line cook reframes setbacks as lessons, not failures. Reject busyness as a badge. The lawyer consulting startups on her schedule, trades time for autonomy. Guard time is irreplaceable. Financial literacy is freedom, wealth, not income. Fun self-determination. The teacher tutoring online builds assets that earn while she sleeps. Engage in constructive rebellion. Create co-ops, pivot industries, or reprogram systems. Study rules to bend, break, or bypass them. Expect resistance, internal and external. Self-authorship roots your why in values. Defying guilt over ambition. The activist leaving bureaucracy for grassroots work, or the engineer choosing renewables over defense contracts, aligns action with conscience. The Ubermensch isn't a titan, but anyone owning their code, the parent scaling a side hustle, the worker coding to improve factory safety, the writer self-publishing. Power lies in authenticity, not dominance. Redefine work. Labor isn't the enemy. Mindless compliance is. Whether farming or tech building, what matters is owning your impact. Transcendence comes from agency, not suffering. Nietzsche's call isn't to abandon morality, but to transcend weakness. Stop asking, am I good enough for the system? And ask, is the system good enough for me? Rewrite rules with leverage, networks, and audacity without permission. The world changes for those who act, not wait. True liberation demands relentless iteration. Like a blacksmith tempering steel, self-authorship requires heat and hammering. Abandoning comfort to forge systems that serve you, not shackle you. The entrepreneur scaling via automation. The teacher crowdfunding a classroom revolution. The retiree monetizing decades of industry insight through a Substack. All embody living systems, not static roles. Resist the trap of arrival. Power isn't a destination, but a practice. Auditing narratives, renegotiating terms, and weaponizing curiosity. When platforms collapse or industries pivot, your adaptability, rooted in skills and sovereign networks, becomes your life raft. Embrace friction. Every no from gatekeepers is data. Every bureaucratic hurdle, a lesson in loopholes. The Ubermensch thrives not by avoiding storms, but by learning to navigate in rain. Finally, measure success not in followers or trophies, but in reclaimed hours, amplified autonomy, and the quiet certainty that your legacy won't fit neatly on a tombstone or a LinkedIn profile. The revolution isn't televised, it's coded, cultivated, and lived daily in the choices you refuse to outsource. Begin where you stand.